Hello friends, how are you all? I hope you all might be fine. एंड आज का जो वीडियो है उसमें हम आपके लिए लेकर आए हैं CBSE 10 टर्म 2 2022 सोशल साइंस इम्पॉर्टेंट 2 मार्क्स क्वेश्चंस विद सॉल्यूशन। ओके, यहाँ पर मैंने आपके लिए सॉल्यूशंस भी तैयार किए हैं या फिर मेरे द्वारा सॉल्यूशंस भी यहाँ पर आपको मेंशन किए जाएंगे। अगर आपको लगता है कि ये आंसर्स मेरे लिए सुटेबल है तो आप ये भी लर्न कर सकते हैं। अदरवाइज यू कैन ऑल्सो राइट द आंसर्स विथ योर माइंड। आप चाहें तो माइंड से भी आंसर लिख सकते हैं। ओके, सो अब यहाँ पर डिस्कस करने वाले हैं 2 मार्क्स में कौन कौन से क्वेश्चन अराइज होने के चांसेस हैं। ओके, सो हेयर वी आर जस्ट स्क्रॉलिंग डाउन साइड। सबसे पहले हम बात करने वाले हैं यहाँ पर चैप्टर नंबर फर्स्ट हिस्ट्री की, नेशनलिज्म इन इंडिया। यहाँ से क्वेश्चन बन सकता है आपके लिए, व्हाट वाज द रॉलेट एक्ट। ये मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन है। यहाँ पर ये आंसर इस तरीके से मेंशन किया गया है। रॉलेट एक्ट वाज ऑफिशियली नोन एज द एनार्किकल Revolutionary Crimes Act 1919. It was passed in March 1919 by the Imperial Legislative Council. This act authorized the British government to arrest anybody suspected of terrorist activities. It also authorized the government to detain such people arrested for up to 2 years without trial. It empowered police to search a place without a warrant. Here the second question arises, why was the Khilafat movement started? The Khilafat movement was launched by Muslim of British India led by Muhammad Ali and Shaukat Ali. The Khilafat movement was a protest against the sanctions placed on Caliph and the Ottoman Empire after the First World War by the Treaty of Sevres. The Khilafat movement is also known as the Indian Muslim movement, and the Muslim population in India started the Khilafat movement. Here the question 3 arises, what was the main reason to withdraw the non-cooperation movement? Here the answer is the non-cooperation movement was withdrawn by Gandhiji because of the Chauri Chaura incident, where a peaceful procession turned violent and the police stations was burnt down. Gandhiji wanted people to follow non-violence. Full stop. Some policemen were harmed at the Gorakhpur, so he called the movement to a stop. Here the fourth question is, explain the idea of Satyagraha according to Gandhiji. The idea of Satyagraha emphasized the power of truth and need to search for truth. Full stop. It suggested that if the cause was true, if the struggle was against injustice, then physical force was not necessary to fight the oppressor. Without seeking vengeance or being aggressive, a Satyagrahi could win the battle through non-violence. This could be done by appealing to the conscience of the oppressor. Here the fifth question is, explain any 2 facts about the new economic situations created in India by the First World War. Here the answer is, the First World War created a new economic situation in India. The facts were, it led to a huge increase in defense expenditure, which was financed by war loans and the increasing taxes. Second one is, customs duties were raised and the income tax was introduced. Here the sixth question is, explain the circumstances under which Gandhiji decided to call off the civil disobedience movement in 1931. Here the answer is, the government brutally repressed by attacking and arresting peaceful satyagrahis and beating women and children, and Gandhiji wanted the civil disobedience movement to be non-violent and peaceful. Since the movement turned violent and many peoples were killed, Gandhiji called it off. Here the seventh question is, how had the First World War created a new economic situation in India? Explain with 3 examples. Here the answer is, the First World War was created a new economic situation in India, which are as, it led to a huge increase in defense expenditure, which was financed by war loans and increasing taxes. Second one is, customs duties were raised, and the third one is, income tax introduced. Here the next question comes, 8th one. How was the Rowlatt Act opposed by the people in India? Explain with example. Here the answer is, the Rowlatt Act was opposed in the following manner. Rallies were organized in various cities. Workers went on strikes in the railway workshops. Shops were closed down. It was in opposition to the Rowlatt Act that the infamous Jallianwala Bagh massacre took place. General Dyer ordered his troops to open fire on the innocent civilians who had gathered from the city of Amritsar and outside to attend a peaceful meeting. Explain any 2 problems, that is the question number 9. Explain any 2 problems faced by the peasants of Awadh. Here the answer is point number 1. In Awadh, landholders and the talukdars collected extremely high rents and taxes from peasants. Here the point number 2. The peasants had no guarantee of period of occupation in the land लॉर्ड्स फार्म्स एंड दे वर ऑफन थ्रोन आउट। विद दिस ओनली यहाँ पर जो हिस्ट्री है आपका, इसके 2 मार्क्स यहाँ पर ख़त्म होते हैं। 2 मार्क्स वाले जो क्वेश्चंस हैं वो इतने ही हैं इंपॉर्टेंट जो निकल कर आए हैं मेरे सामने। हेयर द नेक्स्ट चैप्टर कम्स, दैट इज़ द मैन्युफैक्चरिंग इंडस्ट्रीज़ की हम बात करते हैं। दैट इज़ द सेक्शन रिलेटेड टू द ज्योग्राफी। सो हेयर वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन, एग्रीकल्चर एंड इंडस्ट्री। यहाँ पर हम बात कर रहे हैं एग्रीकल्चर एंड इंडस्ट्री की। सो एग्रीकल्चर एंड इंडस्ट्री आर कॉम्प्लीमेंट्री टू ईच अदर, एक्सप्लेन। मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन है, आने के चांसेस हैं। सो सिंपली आप आंसर लिख सकते हैं, एग्रीकल्चर एंड इंडस्ट्री इन इंडिया आर इंस्पिरेबल और इंटरडिपेंडेंट ऑन ईच अदर। हियर द फर्स्ट पॉइंट कम्स, agro industries in India have boosted agriculture by raising its productivity. Second point is, industries depend on agriculture for the raw materials, for example the cotton textile industry. Third one is, industries provide many agricultural and inputs like irrigation pumps, fertilizers, insecticides, PVC pipes, machines and tools, etc. to the farmers. Fourth one is, manufacturing industries have assisted agriculturalists to increase their production and also made the production process very efficient. Fifth one is, development of different modes of transport by industrial sector has not only helped farmers to obtain agriculture inputs but also helped them trade their products. Here the second question is, why is least cost known as decision making factor for an ideal location of an industry? Here the answer is, least cost is the key factor that determines the location of an industry, because industry tends to be located at a place where the factors of production are either available or can be arranged at low cost. Here the third question is, write the basic inputs of the iron and steel industry. Here the answer is, the inputs for the iron and steel industry includes raw materials such as iron ore, coal and limestone, along with labor, capital, site and other infrastructure. Here the next one is fourth question, what are agglomeration economies? Most important question है, what are agglomeration economies? Here you have to write over the answer as, agglomeration economies refers to the benefits received by the farms and peoples when they come together to make use of the advantages offered by the urban cities that prove helpful to them. For example, cities provide markets and also provide benefits such as banking, insurance, transport, labor, etc. to the industries. Many industries tend to come together to make use of the advantages offered by the urban centers known as the agglomeration economies. Here the fifth question comes, why do our industries need to be more efficient and competitive in the present day of globalization? Here the answer is, our industries need to be more efficient and competitive in the present day of globalization because our manufactured goods must be as per in quality with those in the international market. Second point is, only then we will be able to compete in the international market. Here the third point is, India will have to develop its industries if it wants to be international or internationally developed. Here the next chapter comes, lifelines of the national economy. इससे जो हमारा फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन है, that is, efficient means of transport are prerequisites for the fast development. Express your views in favor of this statement. This is also a most important question we can say. So the answer simply you can mention as, importance of efficient means of transport for the development is to be explained as, point number 1, movement of goods and services from their supply locations to demand locations necessitates the need for transport. Point number 2, the pace of a country depends upon the production of goods and services as well as their movements over space. Third point is, therefore, efficient means of transport and communication are prerequisites for the fast development. Here the question number 2 is, how are the means of transport and communication complementary to each other? Explain with 3 examples. Here the answer is, means of transport and the communication are complementary to each other in the following ways. Point number 1, transport and communication provides basic infrastructure for each other to carry on their process. Here the second point is, they create possibilities for the investment to upgrade and expand their services. Third point is, communication has widened the horizons of trade far and wide. Fourth point is, transport had limited access earlier. With the advancement of science and technology, the world has converted into a large village. Communication has widened the scope of transportation even in the remote areas. Here the question number 3 is, what is the significance of the border roads? This is also the VVIMP question. Here you can simply mention the answer as, border roads are extremely important. Border roads have improved accessibility in the areas of difficult terrain in the northeastern and the northern border areas. Border roads have helped in the economic development of northern and the northeastern border areas, people living in border areas will have the more access to the healthcare facilities, education, and many other facilities. When border roads are developed, it will also help in developing tourist sector. Most importantly, border roads will help in maintaining the security of India. With border roads, armed forces can move quickly to border areas and help to protect its borders from the external aggression. Here the fourth question is, what is the difference between personal communication and the mass communication? So यहाँ पर आपको दोनों के बीच में डिफरेंस बताना है, पर्सनल कम्युनिकेशन और मास कम्युनिकेशन. दिस इज ऑल्सो द VVIMP क्वेश्चन. फर्स्टली वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट द पर्सनल कम्युनिकेशन. It's communication between the person to person. Second point is, it provides necessary communication between two peoples, making man a social animal. Here the third point is, we have letters, emails, SMS, telephone and mobile phone facilities, which also includes the STD and ISD services. Now we are talking about the mass communication. It's the communication among masses. Point number 2, it provides entertainment as well as creates the awareness among the masses. Point number 3, it includes radio, television, newspapers, magazines, books, films, etc. Here the question number 5 arises, what are the problems faced by the Indian Railways? Under this you have to write the answer as, the Indian Railways faces the following problems. Point number 1, many passengers travel without tickets. Point number 2, thefts and damage of the railway property has not yet stopped completely. Point number 3, people stop the trains and pull the chain unnecessarily. This caused the damage to the railways. Here the next chapter we are talking about, that is the political parties from the DP, democratic politics. Here the first question is, why the political parties are necessary conditions for a democracy, or why the political parties are a necessary conditions for a democracy. In this you have to write the answer as, point number 1, without political parties, democracies cannot exist. If we do not have the political parties, every candidate will be independent. Point number 2, no one will be able to make any promises to people about the major policy changes. Point number 3, the government may be formed, but its utility will remain uncertain. Point number 4, elected representatives will be accountable to their constituency for what they do in their locality, but not one will be responsible for how the country will run. Point number 5, as societies become large and complex, they also need some agencies to gather different views on various issues and to present these to the government. Here the question number 2 from the political parties, what you mean by the partition? Okay, what you mean by the partition? Here the answer you can write over the, a person who is strongly committed to a party, group or faction. Partisanship is marked by a tendency to take a side and inability to take a balanced view on an issue. Here the question number 3 is, what are the two ways of carrying out political reforms in a democratic country? Simply you can mention the answer as, two ways for carrying out political reforms in a democracy or democratic country are, point number 1, regular revision of laws to ensure that the wrong political practices are not encouraged and people will get equal rights and justices in every condition, in a way by strengthening the major democratic practices in a democracy. Point number 2, in a democratic countries, ideologies that are followed should not hamper the rights of the common people and should encourage them to participate in the democratic practices. Now we are talking about the question number 4, give the reason why a multi-party system has evolved in India. Answer is, a multi-party system evolved in India because of the social and the geographical diversity of the country. This diversity cannot be absorbed by 2 or 3 parties alone. Here the question number 5 is, what do you understand by recognized party? Simply you can mention the answer, a party that gets some privilege such as unique symbols and other special facilities is called the recognized party by the election commission. Here the next question is, what is defection? Under this you can write the answer as, defection implies changing party allegiance from the party on which a person got elected to a legislature to a different party. Here the 7th question is, why do the MLAs and the MPs commit defection? Here the answer is, the person who had incurred disqualification for defection does not deserve to MP or an MLA even a single day. Here the eighth question is describe the three types of the party system. You can simply mention the answer as there are three types of the party system. Single party system, a system in which a single political party has the right to form the government. Single party existed in China, North Korea and Cuba. Here the second one is biparty system. In biparty system, the power is usually shared between two parties. Of the two parties, one becomes the ruling party and the other becomes the opposition. Example, biparty system can be seen in the UK and the USA. Where the third one is multi-party system. When the competition for power is among three or more parties, the system is known as the multi-party system. This type of the party system is in existence in India, France, Sweden and the Norway, etc. Here the question number 9 is what is biparty system? Biparty system is a party system where two major political parties dominate the government. One of the two parties typically holds a majority in the legislature and is usually referred to as the majority or the governing party, while the other is the minority or the opposition party. Here the question number 10 is no party system is ideal for all countries and in all situations justify the statement. Simply mention the answer as no party system is ideal for all the countries and all situations. Point number A, party system is not something any country can choose. Point number B, it involves over a long time depending on the nature of the society. Point number C, its social and the regional divisions, its history of policies and its systems of elections. Point number D, each country develops a party system that is conditioned by its special circumstances. Point number E, for example, if India has evolved a multi-party system, it is because the social and the geographical diversity in such a large country is not easily absorbed by two or even three parties. Now we are proceeding towards our next chapter, outcomes of democracy. In this, our first question is list out any two merits of the democracy. So simply you can mention the answer as merits of democracy. A democratic government is a better government because it is a more accountable form of government. Point number 2, democracy improves the quality of decision making. Here the question number 2 is why is the democracy unable to guarantee economic development? You can simply mention the answer as economic development depends on several factors: the country's population size, global situation, cooperation from other countries, economic priorities adopted by the country. However, the difference in the rates of economic development between less developed countries with dictatorships and the democracies is negligible. Overall, we cannot say democracy is a guarantee of the economic development, but we can expect democracy not to lag behind dictatorships in this respect. Here the question number 3 is what are the common features of the democracy in most of the countries of the world? You can simply mention the answer as common features of the democracy are competitive election, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, rule of law, civilian control of the military. Here the question number 4 is when democracy is considered successful. So you can simply mention the answer as democracy considered to be successful when the rulers elected by the people must take all the major decisions and not the rich and the powerful people. The elections must offer a choice and a fair opportunity to the people to change the rulers if they want to. A choice and the opportunity should be available to all the people based on the political equality. Here the question number 5 comes, why is there an overwhelming support to democracy all over the world? There is an overwhelming support to democracy all over the world because democracy ensures the fact that the power does not get concentrated in the hand of a single person. Democracy ensures the fact that the people have the power to influence the economic, social, political and cultural environment of the country through their elected representatives in the government bodies. Here the question number 6 is the fact that the peoples are complaining is itself a testimony to the success of democracy. Prove the statement by giving the two valid reasons. Here the answer number 6 you can write over there as democracy support dignity and freedom of the citizens. Every man wants to get respect from the fellow persons in the society. A lot of the conflicts take place among the human beings because some feels they are not treated with due respect. The passion for respect and the freedom are the basis of the democracy. Here the point number 2 you can write over there. Democracy in India has strengthened the claims of the disadvantaged and the discriminated caste for the equal status and the equal opportunity. Here the chapter number next, that is the money and credit we are talking about. Here the first question is state the role of the Reserve Bank of India. VVIMP question we can consider. The role of the Reserve Bank of India can be described by the following points. It holds the top spot in the India's banking hierarchy. It is in charge of the issuing currency notes on behalf of the government. It acts as the banker and the financial advisor to the government. It supervises the functioning of the formal sources of loans. It promotes the financial inclusion by ensuring that banks give loans not just to profit-making business and traders but also to small cultivators, small-scale industries and small borrowers. It manages the foreign exchange. It is responsible for formulation of the country's monetary policy. It ensures that banks maintain a certain cash reserves at all times. Here the question number 2, which are the modern forms of money? In the modern monetary systems, there are three forms of the money in actual use: metallic money, paper money and the credit money. The first two kinds of money are in the form of currency money and the last one is credit or the bank money. Here metallic money we are talking about. Metallic money refers to the coins made out of the various metals like gold, silver, bronze, nickel, etc. Paper money. Paper money consists of the currency notes issued by the state treasury or the central bank of the country. Credit money. In modern economic societies, with the development of the banking activity along with the paper money, another form of the convertible money has developed in the form of the credit money or the bank money. Here the next question comes: how do the demand deposit shares the essential features of money? In this you can write the answer as demand deposit shares the essential features of the money in the following way. The facility of checks against demand deposits makes it possible to directly settle payments without the use of cash. Point number 2, since demand deposits are accepted widely as a means of payment along with currency, they constitute money in the modern economy. Here the next question is: what is debt trap? Here you can simply mention the answer as the debt trap is a situation where you are forced to over consume loans or repay your existing debts. Over time, you get stuck in a situation where the debt spirals out of control, exceeding your repayment capacity, making you fall into a debt trap. Here the next question is: which authority does supervise the functioning of the formal source of loans and how? You can simply mention the answer as Reserve Bank of India. The RBI monitors that the banks actually maintain the cash balance. It also seems that the banks give loan to all rich as well as poor. Okay, the next question is: what is meaning of the barter system? Why is double coincidence of wants as an essential feature of the barter system? Double coincidence of wants is one of the feature of the barter system, which refers to the situation wherein what a person wishes to sell is exactly the same as the other person wishes to buy. This is a concept in the barter system in which goods are exchanged directly without the use of money. Here the question number 7, why is modern currency accepted as a medium of exchange without the use of its own? Point out the reasons. Here simply you can mention the answer as modern currency is accepted as a medium of exchange without any use of its own because modern currency is authorized by the government of a country. In India, the Reserve Bank of India issues all currency notes on behalf of the central government. Point number 3, no other individual or the organization is allowed to issue the currency. Point number 4, the law legalizes the use of rupee as a medium of payment that cannot be refused in settling transactions in India. Point number 5, no individual in India can legally refuse a payment made in rupees. Here the question number is: why should credit at reasonable rates from the banks and the cooperative be available for all? Credit at the reasonable interest rates should be available for all so that they may increase their incomes and help in the overall development of the country. High interest rate do little to increase the income of the borrowers. Point number 3, it is necessary that the banks and the cooperative increases their lending, particularly in the rural areas, so that the dependence of the people on the informal sources of the credit reduces. Point number 4, in addition to this, more credit should be given to the poor to get the maximum benefit from the cheaper loans. Point number 5, this will help in increasing in their incomes as well as the standard of living. Now we are proceeding towards our question number 9. Why is it necessary for the banks and the cooperative society to increase the lending facilities in the rural areas? You can simply mention the answer as most loans from the informal lenders carry a very high interest rate and do little to increase the income of the borrowers. Hence, it is necessary that banks and the cooperative increases the lending, particularly in the rural areas, so that the dependence on the informal sources of credit reduces. While formal sector's loans need to expand, it is also necessary that everyone receives these loans. At present, it is richer households who receive formal credit, whereas the poor have to depend on the informal sources. So it is important that the formal credit is distributed more equally so that the poor can benefit from the cheaper loans. Here the question number 10 is: how do the banks play an important role in the economy of India? Here simply you can mention the answer as banks play an important role in developing the economy of India by the following ways. Bank keep the money of the peoples in its safe custody. Banks give interest on the deposited money to the people. Banks mediate between those who have surplus money and those who are in need of money. Banks provide the loan to a large number of people at low interest rate. Banks promote agriculture and the industrial sector by providing loans. They also provide funds to different organizations. Here the next chapter comes globalization and the Indian economy. Under this, our first question is, what are the multinational corporation MNCs? This is the most important question. A multinational corporation MNC is one that has business operations in 2 or more countries. These companies are often managed from and have a central office in their home country with offices worldwide. There are different types of the multinational corporations based on their corporate structures. They often operate as a parent company with separate foreign subsidiaries. MNCs can have a major impact on the economies of each country in which they operate. They create jobs and add money to the local tax base, both at home and abroad. These companies often face critics who perceive that the impact they have on these countries may do more harm than good. Here the question number 2 is, explain what is investment. Give a few examples of the investment. Under this you can write the answer as, investment is something which we invest. For example, the invest in UPI is SBI, so that it's investment that we save money for future profits, that if anything happens to us or a family members is in the future, so that the money or that thing will be very useful to us in that time. Here the question number 3 is, why is tax on imports known as trade barrier? A trade barrier is used by the government to restrict the flow of goods and services into and out of the economy. A tax on imports is known as a trade barrier as it discourages foreign trade. For example, an important tax on watches increases their prices in the economy. This will lead to the lesser imports of the product. Okay, here the next question comes, question number 4. Give one characteristics features of the special economic zone. Under this you can simply write the answer as, special economic zones SEZ are being set up to have world-class facilities such as educational, electricity, water, transport, storage, recreational, etc. Features production units in the SEZs are exempted from taxes for a period of 5 years initially. Here the question number 5 is, what do you understand by the term foreign direct investment? You can simply mention the answer as FDI, जिसका full form होता है foreign direct investment, is the investment of the foreign capital in the economics and the productive activities of a country by foreign companies or the MNCs with the aim of expanding capacity and production to earn the profits. Here the question number 6 arises, why had the Indian government put barriers to the foreign trade and the foreign investment after independence? State any one reason. You can simply mention the answer as, the Indian government after independence had put barriers to the foreign trade and the investment. This was done to protect the producers within the country from a foreign competition. Here the point number 2 is, to protect the Indian economy from the foreign infiltration in industries affecting the economic growth of the country as planned. Here the question number 7. Why do the MNCs set up their offices and the factories in those regions where they get the cheap labor and other resources? You can simply mention the answer as, the cost of production is reduced considerably due to the cheap labor and the MNCs earn great profits. So their factories are set up in those regions where they get cheap labor and other resources. Here the question number 8 arises, differentiate between the investment and the foreign investment. This is also the VVIMP question and may surely arise in the examination. So you can simply make the columns over there, investment and the foreign investment. Under this we will write over there, we are just comparing the points. Under the investment, when the money is spent on the purchasing of assets such as land, machines, building, etc., is known as investment. On the opposite side, when the money is invested by the MNCs into the companies belonging to other countries, is known as the foreign investment. Investment, this is done for the expansion of the business. Foreign investment, this is done to get the power on the companies that are from another country. Under the investment, the money flows within the country. Under the foreign investment, the money flows outside the country. Here the next question is, what is meant by trade barrier? Under this, you can simply mention the answer as trade barriers are nothing but the type of measures which are introduced by the government or the public authorities to make imported goods or services less competitive than locally produced goods and services. Not everything that prevents or restricts trade can be characterized as a trade barrier. Now with this only यहाँ पर आपके 2 मार्क्स के जो क्वेश्चंस इन द सेंस 2 मार्क्स क्वेश्चंस आपके लिए ख़त्म हो जाते हैं. आई थिंक सो दिस क्वेश्चंस वर सफिशिएंट. यू कैन जस्ट रिवाइंड दिस वीडियो अगेन एंड वॉच इट. एंड बहुत ध्यान से करिएगा क्योंकि चांसेस 100% श्योर है यहाँ से क्वेश्चंस आने का. और 3 मार्क्स के क्वेश्चंस मैं कुछ ही देर बाद अपलोड कर दूंगा. टिल देन थैंक यू सो मच and have a nice day and best of luck for your examination.